part of me hesitates to want to talk about some experiences because you're going to dive in tomorrow morning to 4 and 5 sessions. And you're going to think, I don't want to go out of body anymore. I don't want you to think that way. But as you've probably already got a little bit of my flavor, I have some dark humor. I like to not sugarcoat things. I like to give it to you how it is. Just like here in physical world, nobody on this physical planet could tell you that you can't suffer in this world, that you can't have bad experiences because you've experienced suffering. You've had some bad experiences. We're human. This is humanity. There's stuff out there we don't fully understand. Our own governments are doing stuff that they're not telling us. As an out-of-body explorer, sometimes you touch into some of this stuff, and it really freaks you out. As a conspiratist theory, all those years ago, the conspiracy sort of theorist, I thought I understood reality. I thought I was arrogant enough. I thought I understood it. Now, again, I feel like a baby. I feel like a baby just getting to grips with consciousness, and I don't even know what consciousness is. So I'll sort of try and keep some of this short, but some of it will help fill in some more blanks. So probably within the first year of my out-of-body journeys, I had an experience where I was in my bed that night, and I wasn't planning to have any out-of-body journeys. If I was going to have a spontaneous one, great, but I wasn't planning anything. I was just sleeping, and my wife was next to me in bed. And if she ever watches this video, this is going to really make her think, what a nut. So I suddenly become aware that I'm out of my body. I'm in another place, and I'm sort of crouching down behind these crates. And I'm thinking, why am I hiding? Because it seemed like I was hiding. And just literally becoming aware within an experience. And I'm hiding, and like, what the hell? Where am I? Why am I hiding? And so I got up, and I walked through a wall. There's like this big storage room, and I walked through this wall. And there's a hallway, so I'm walking through the hallway, and then there's these 2 U.S. soldiers, military personnel. They're there in the hallway. And they've got some sort of handheld device. They're like, we've got him, he's here. I was like, ah! What do you mean they've got me? I'm out of body, they're physical, they can't see me. But they were aware of my presence. And I was like, what? That's crazy. How can they know I'm here? And how did I get here, and where is here? My conspiracy mind is like, really? Yeah, woo! And so I go back in through the wall and back in the storage room, and I was like, okay, maybe they can detect them here, but they're not going to be able to follow me. They're physical. They can't walk through that wall. Part of me was like, waiting for them to walk through walls. I'm like, no, they didn't. So I walked through the other wall, and I came through a corridor and walked through another wall, and there's another corridor, and more soldiers appear. And again, they're like, he's here, he's here. And I was like, how are they doing that? How do they know I'm here? I've never been close to physical reality before and have somebody detect me. Maybe the odd clairvoyant might see a shadow of something, but nobody. And I'm like, what? And I got really frightened. And I wasn't suddenly being drawn back to my physical body. I was like, why am I not making an instant return? And so I thought, I'm getting out of here. So I rushed out of the building. And I could see a perimeter fence, and suddenly I was there. Behind the perimeter fence, I was on the other side. There was a clutch of trees, and I was sort of crouching down in the middle, and I was like trying to get to grips with this, and I'm thinking, I want to go home, and I'm thinking about my body, and suddenly there's this bright light that shines down on me, and I look up, and as I look up, I don't clock what the light is, because the lights then go out, as in my unconsciously I go out. And I'm suddenly now back in my bed in England. I don't know where that place was still, but I know I'm now back in my bed in England. And I'm lying there in full paralysis. And I'm like, okay, I know what paralysis is, this is fine. Until I noticed standing at the end of the bed was this wee little fellow. He was about that tall. And he didn't look very human. And I was like, what the fuck? I could have done all sort of, pee, shit, everything, because I was that scared. I was just like, I could have had a brown leg moment easily. I was like, what the hell? I was seriously freaked out. And I got even more freaked out realizing that this wee little fellow was in here, and very aware that I was now awake. and that I was in paralysis, and I was really feeling ultra vulnerable. And I was trying to break it. I was like doing everything I knew at the time to break this state. And I was like, Suddenly he starts walking around the bed. He's coming up this side of the bed towards me, and I'm like, oh shit, what's he gonna do? And I'm like just getting mobility in my neck a little bit, and then he kind of walks past, and I'm looking at it, and he walks right through the goddamn wall. He walked through a physical wall. I broke the paralysis. I stood up. I thought, maybe this is a false awakening. Suddenly, a bunch of racket at the front of the house. I go to the front of the house, and there's all these car alarms on the street going off. There was no false awakening. I was awake in physical reality. I was shit scared. I had my children in the next room, my wife sleeping next to me in bed. I was shit scared. Conspiracy stuff, conspiracy days, every month I'd race out to buy a UFO magazine. So I thought, I had all this, awareness of ET and this and that, and, there's alien bases and the US government's in conspiracy with them. And for days and weeks, I wanted to tell somebody. I had one friend in particular I could have told anything. Didn't even tell him. I thought, this is a whole new level of weird. This is beyond a box of frogs kind of weirdness kind of thing. And I thought, I can't tell anybody because I don't want anybody thinking I'm, And so I kept all this inside. I'm trying to figure this out. And was I abducted? My energy body abducted in the middle of the night? Was I taken to a base in America? I was being probed. What was it? And then that light, was that like a UFO and my energy body was taken back? Or what was it? I didn't know. And I was even getting to the point of thinking, was ET on my side actually? Did ET rescue me from these bad Americans? I didn't know. At the time, I didn't know how to dig around a little bit more into these deeper records and pick things up. But all I knew, I was shit scared and feeling pretty vulnerable and traumatized. And so I kind of held back from having experiences for a few days, and I thought, I don't know if I want to do this. But something prompted me to get back out there. And I felt, I have to get back out there. I can't let something like that stop me. For starters, I didn't create that. I wasn't consciously out of body that night and exploring, and I didn't get myself set up for that. I don't know how it happened, but there you have it. So the year went past, and I had a few other little brushes with individuals like this. And it got to a point to where a few years went by, and I was still having a few brushes, and I felt like every time I was in the presence of one particular style of ET, or non-human intelligence, I was being massively manipulated by them. They had a lot more mental ability than what I was familiar with. And so a couple of years back, I was in Scotland in a retreat, running an OB sort of style retreat, teaching people this stuff. And on one of the mornings we were having the session stuff, I got out of the body and I thought, I want to go to higher self. I want to go to the highest level I can. I want to get some information on that level of reality and that part of our consciousness. And so I started moving through these different layers, and I could feel the shifts taking place, and I thought, I'm going to make it this time. And then suddenly, my ascent starts to slow, and it comes to a stop, and it's just like a void. And suddenly, so it's like somebody threw a light switch, and there was a band of these non-human intelligences again, about 8 of them. And I was there, and I was like, oh, my heart, my energetic heart, or whatever, just went sinking, and I was just like, no, not again. Now, let me just time out and say that all the friends that I have, the almost 100 plus friends that do the exploration stuff, none of them comes into contact with this kind of stuff. It almost seems more rare. Robert Monroe came across it. There's a few other friends that I have that, sort of touch into certain things. One girl in particular. But on a whole, this is not the experience of the out-of-body stuff. A lot of people do not have this sort of level of experience, and I didn't want it. And so here I was presented with it again. And suddenly my energy started dimming, and I could feel they're going to do it again. They're going to, sort of overpower my mental energy, and whatever happens, I don't know, because I've never been able to feed into what they do. And so I thought, no, I'm going to fight this. And then an idea came to mind. I had a few friends the previous summer went to one of William Gilman's workshops, and I think it was in Italy. And they said they sat around a campfire, and Billman was talking about sat around talking about these experiences, and somebody asked him, what about ET? What about these non-human intelligences? Have you ever felt the manipulation of them? And Billman said, when I first started my exploration, yes, I encountered some of this manipulation. And he said, but now, 30 plus years on, he said, I know what this is. I'm aware of this. I know my power. I've stepped into my power. And he said to this group, as I'm sure this is how my friends, I remember them relating it, he said, now nothing gets in my way. If something is not in alignment with my development, I'll blast right through it. And in that moment I thought about that, and I thought about them, and I thought, I'm going to fight them. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to push this. And I started to, suddenly my awareness started to go back up again. And I was successfully doing this, and then suddenly these tricky little devils, they changed orientation. They created a projection in my mind. They suddenly turned into cartoon style figures. As, all happy and jolly, and I was like, suddenly my mind relaxes a little bit. And I'm no longer fighting. And then I'm feeling this dimness coming over me again. I'm like, you tricky little bastards. That's clever stuff. Distract me with cartoons. And I thought, they're really powerful. I've got to go. And I said, back to my body. And I came back to my body, and I stood up in my body, grounded. And I just thought, I'm not going to fight that. I'm going to leave it. So about another year went by. And a summer I was hitchhiking, and I went down to Malta. And as I was going down to Malta,